I grew up such a fan of sports memorabilia and sports cards, and I'm really excited that this show is both going to highlight that as well as the awesome entrepreneurs that make it all possible. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into Talking Shop. Today, we have one of our first repeat guests, and that is because we have the man, the myth, the Top Shot legend, Jack Settleman. Welcome back to the show.
What up, Buster? I'm excited to dive in. It would be funny to look at like our first episode and now to what we're about to talk about. All that's changed.
I'm sure we were talking about like Zion and Luka rookies, like Prism rookies, and that was only 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Time definitely moves quick. Speaking of that, I remember when you first came to me in regards to Top Shot, and I, admittedly was not a believer in any way, shape, or form. We have our little group chat, and even just a few weeks ago, you asked us to grade our thoughts on Top Shot 1 to 10. I think I gave it a 2 out of 10.
I think, yeah, 2 or 3. And Adam was probably at what, a 5 maybe? And the funniest part was I understood where you were coming from. If you don't get it, you don't get, not that you don't understand the concept of it. If you don't like it, rather, I get it, like why it's a 2 to you. But Adam had made major investments and still wasn't sold on it. That was the funniest part.
Well, it's like it's like a principle that I believe in, which is even if you don't believe in something, if it's getting traction, you should at least allocate 1 to 5% of your portfolio to it and hope that it fails. Because if it fails and you're deep in that sector, then your other investments succeed. But if it succeeds, then at least you have some skin in the game. And I bought a couple things, but I wasn't making Adam $200,000 investments. But then I came back around like 3 weeks later, and I texted you. I was like, you know what? I was wrong. I was very, very, very wrong. But it's been so fun to see. Why did you sort of believe in Top Shot off the bat? And were you worried at all? Or did you think what has happened was going to happen?
Yeah, great question. So I came into card collecting from, I think, a different angle than you and Ravel and a lot of people who are in the hobby. I really liked the concept of being able to invest in my favorite players who I believed in and being able to make money. And I have a sports betting background. So I think that is where my entry point was I can finally bet on. My favorite example to give is like Josh Allen in the NFL this year, right? If you predicted his breakout year, which he played unbelievable, he finished second in the MVP voting. The Bills made the AFC Championship. But if you bet on them to win the Super Bowl, make the Super Bowl, or him to win MVP, you actually lost every single one of those bets. Whereas if you collected his cards, right, you could see 3x, 5x, 10x even returns. So I think when it became a non-zero sum game, I really liked that idea of cards. Then when I came in, mail day became my favorite thing, the hobby. Like I actually learned to love the collecting aspect, finding those cool finds as well. So it's similar to Top Shot is I went in through that mindset. But what happened with, I think, physical cards was I actually saw a lot of the flaws in the industry, the grading process, the actual having to list on eBay, take a picture, right? Essentially create a YouTube video with having to thumbnail it and title it, right? So for that reason, it just, when I found Top Shot and then finally grasped it, I was like, okay, this solves for a lot of the issues. And for me, who wasn't in it just for the collecting and hobby aspects, it just made a lot of sense for me.
It really is like uploading a YouTube video. I've never heard somebody put it like that.
Yeah.
But I think there's a point in time where, particularly with lower to mid-end cards, you have to figure out what your time is worth. And if the card value doesn't equate to what you value your time at, you are losing money by selling your own cards. And the liquidity issues in sports cards are very real for that reason. Top Shot and NFTs, that doesn't exist. Granted, you don't have it physically, but you do have the rights to sell it. And I think that's the biggest differentiator when people are like, oh, I have that highlight on YouTube. Well, you can't sell the highlight on YouTube. And that's the having the digital rights to sell that, whatever the heck it is valuable.
Yeah, that's what I tweeted out today because it took me a while, right? Like people paint me as like the defender of NFTs when really I'm trying to figure out the best way to like communicate this stuff because it is so new and people still don't get it. And I don't want to act like I know everything about it either. But just from talking to people and learning, I've kind of gone through, I had a prop, right, where I had like the Mickey Mantle and I just printed it out and I was showing people, I'm like, why is this not worth $5 million? And then today on one of my YouTube explainers, someone was like, why can't I just screen record? And it finally clicked. I was like, exactly what you just said. You can screen record. I can look at the highlight. They're both the same, but no one will pay for yours and everyone will pay for mine. And once you understand that, that's where the store value is.
100%. Now, how do you look at it when, because with physical cards, let's say there are 1,000 printed of, I don't know, a Zion rookie card. Only a very small percentage of those will be PSA 10 condition, which, gives the premium. Every Top Shot is a PSA 10, good or bad.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you've seen, I think, people come in from physical and start to say, okay, the higher serials are going to be the more valuable. And those are the ones that are first minted. Therefore, they have more value. When in reality, like they're not in better condition, right? I think that's the differentiator of what makes a physical card so valuable. So I think one of the most exciting parts about NFTs and then Top Shot specifically is like, I'm excited to watch how the market rewrites the rules, right? Like in physical cards, there's so many sets of rules. I hate that in football, it's only quarterbacks. I hate that in NBA, it's like really only rookies, right? And I like that new people are coming in and they're rewriting the rules, and we're going to see what's valuable. My guess is jersey number one, the highest stuff will be more valuable. But the data that I've seen from these third party tools says outside of jersey number and number one mint, no one really cares if you own 167 versus 2038 out of 5,000. So I think it's really interesting.
Totally. And, a lot of NBA players are getting into it too. Probably one of the most cruel things I saw was Josh Hart, a fan getting
Yeah.
his own highlight and then him going on Twitter and selling it. I
It's
couldn't.
amazing. It's amazing. But you come from running, one of the biggest basketball accounts, right, on social media. So you get social media and you've engaged your community for a very long time. And what I always talk about is like social media was meant for that. Same thing we do at Snapback. We talk back with the fans. And social media created this world where people with big platforms just got another platform to have a big platform on. Like Stephen A goes on First Take, makes his take, millions of people watch, and then comes on Twitter. He's not going back and forth with fans. And I think that was the intention of social media, was they were finally going to feel connected. Whereas the situation here where these athletes are hyper engaged with their communities, that's what I think NFTs are going to do. They're going to re-engage the audiences in the way that social media was supposed to make happen.
So, if you can, I'd love for you to share your screen and dive into a little bit of your collection. This is the first on Talking Shop. We are making NFT history here. This is so exciting. So, walk me through and everybody else what we're looking at and uh,
Yeah.
what we want to see.
So first things first, I'll point out transactions are disabled. Perfect timing, obviously, because the site's constantly in maintenance. They always remind us they're in beta. It's very early days here. So I think it's good to get an authentic kind of lens in here. But this is my personal profile. Obviously have the over 500 nicks at the time of this recording. And then, so one of the most underutilized parts of the platform is these showcases. And what we always talk about is like, you go to a card show, you want to have stuff in your house, you're showing people off. The next gen is showing stuff off their phone, right? And I think that's what these showcases are going to do. So if I clicked in here, it would kind of run through the LeBron moments that I own, which I think is pretty cool. And this one's even cooler. You can see Swish Fantasy League. Swish is this third-party tool where you can take your moments and essentially play fantasy basketball with them. So I think that's pretty cool also. And then it's all integrated through the showcase tool. But here's some of my moments. Let's sort through the lowest serial because that'll show some of the more high-value moments. But the first one I bought, or not first one, but one of my favorite ones is this Donovan Mitchell. a lot of discussion, right, about does the moment matter, or is it just what came first? And when you have physical cards, right, it's just a picture of LeBron James, who had actually, one of his rookie cards is just a picture of him from a preseason game and he missed the shot, right? So do the
Exactly.
moment, right? So do the moment on the card matter? Of course not. Otherwise, like the LeBron block would be his most high, selling card. But same thing here. But this is why I love the Donovan Mitchell moment, because it's actually a really cool block. He glasses LeBron and then he chases it all the way down the floor, hustles up, and he ends up with a pretty strong dunk here, which is, I mean, that's Donovan Mitchell at his finest, is throwing down
And
a
it's
slam.
series one, if you want to touch on the importance of that.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm referencing when I say, does what came first matter, or does the moment? So series
Right.
one, the holy grail, right, is this LeBron Cosmic. He's the best player on the platform. It's series one. It's the first legendary set that was ever released. But it's a dunk against the Kings. This is not LeBron James's best moment in his career. It's a nice dunk. He's on the Lakers, but that's not what LeBron's known for. So to me, it's a fun mix. And once again, letting the market pick, is it Pokemon, right? Where it's just what came first with Pokemon, what's the oldest? Or is it going to be in season 5 or series 5 of Top Shot when they release the LeBron block or his shot against the Magic? Like, will that eclipse this one that came first? I'm so excited to kind of see how that plays out.
So when you look at that LeBron, for example, what does that go for on the market today? As the preface to my question.
Yeah, so this one is the one that Lefko was in on the big sale, $208,000. So they bought 20, I think they bought number 29. I could be mistaken. Serial, I'm holding 21, but I think these are two great comparisons, right? So this is the Holy Grail, this LeBron Cosmic, but then I made the big buy at the
Number.
time, huh?
Jersey number.
Exactly. And this was the biggest sale on the app or on the platform whenever we made it about a month ago. And now it's been blown away essentially daily. But this one, to me, we bought the jersey number. We made the decision to do that. This is the Kobe Bryant tribute dunk. So you've seen the dunk before. It matches the Kobe dunk that he used to do. So people call it the Kobe tribute. So this is a great case study, right? Which is the more valuable down the line, specifically maybe on the Cosmic number 23, right? Would you rather hold the one that has a ton of meaning to it, a ton of significance, 10 more available, or do you want the first of first? And I think that's, we're going to see. We're going to see. But those are definitely my two top moments.
Those are sick. But to play devil's advocate, would you rather have that or 8 LeBron James PSA 10 Chrome rookies? Which would you rather have right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, and is that in regards to what's the current Chrome rookie? Like, are you talking about the Cosmic or the from the top?
Either one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for this, I think this one's so special. And that's what I mean when I say the Chrome rookies are amazing and there is rookie card, but it's not a special moment from his career. I think this LeBron from the top dunk is a special moment from his career. It's not his most notable, but I just think it's such a pivotal part of his career, especially on the Lakers. I mean, I'm just a huge fan of Top Shot, so I probably lean Top Shot because I do believe these will be they just won't be for sale. There's none for sale. They took them off the marketplace after the most recent sale. And I'm also just a huge believer in the utility of this stuff, NFTs in general. So I think playing in this space. Now, if you put 8 Chrome rookies in front of me, or more importantly, I do like having a singular over like a pool of them. So if you could find a $250,000 LeBron card and offer that to me, maybe that's where I would have a tough time turning it down.
Exquisite RPA. It's a $250,000 card. The one number
Exactly.
199.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be. And wait, you said it's numbered out of 199?
Yeah.
But how many PSA 10s are there?
Oh, we're talking PSA 10. Then it's worth more than $250,000.
Oh, okay. So
That's like BGS 9 is like
so that's Yeah, that's pretty interesting, which is like, there's only 49 of these cosmics and they're pretty much priced at a quarter million right now. And there's 199 of the exquisite RPAs. But what do you have on that? Well, you have an autograph and a patch, right? So I think that's where it's a very interesting case study.
I think that alternative collectibles have gotten so big and are so popular as opposed to traditional dividend paying stocks that there's room for both now. And that's sort of been my 2021 realization that this market is so big. And it's still, as it was broken down to me, incredibly small when you look at it from the perspective of what percentage of sports fans in the world buy collectibles and invest in them. The percentage is under one, maybe near 1% out of the, you know, billions of sports fans in the world. So if that number gets to 10%, then everything goes up 10x in terms of demand. And you look for the stuff that doesn't go up in terms of supply. So that's really where it gets interesting to me, man.
No, that's such a pivotal point. And one of the things I like to talk about is NFTs. I think they're gonna go above and beyond the collectible market because what can you do with a movie prop? What can you do with the Abe Lincoln signature that I know you love to collect? You can show it off, you can showcase it, but there's no utility for it, right? It's actually dangerous to have it out, right? The air quality, you could drop it, you could crack the case. What you're going to be able to do with some NFTs, maybe Top Shot. I mean, you're going to play video game with it, but other ones, Euler Beats, you're going to give creators an opportunity to monetize fan communities. Like the coolest thing for me is right now this idea that's being floated around, which is like Spencer Dinwiddie could say, okay, I'm creating this unique fan community. You own 10 of my moments every Sunday night for 30 minutes. We'll have a Zoom with you guys, right? And you just were never able, you could do Patreon, but then you're just asking people to essentially pay for access. Whereas here you get to own something, you get rewarded for that. I think that's really a cool aspect to it all.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how players get involved in it. Um, and I think it's coming soon. Although on the flip side of that, everybody and their mom is now launching their own NFT, and obviously most of them are not going to become overnight, sensations. Uh, how do you feel about sort of the oversaturation in the NFT market now, in terms of things outside of Top Shot, art, all the above?
I pointed out that I thought Logan Paul's, so he sold his first NFT. It was tied to the Pokemon box. I thought it was pretty cool in general. And then after he opened these $1 million boxes, he sold just a YouTube clip of him opening them up for 20 grand. A YouTube clip. And I could not believe it. And I said, like, this to me feels like a money grab. It feels like oversaturation. Then I read through the tweet a little more. If you bought them, you got put into like that exclusive fan group that I was just kind of talking about. In the Dimwitty situation, they all sold out. I couldn't believe it. I actually could not
Oh,
believe it.
Spencer
So
sold out. He actually did that.
no, 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 no. Logan Paul did. Sold multiple $20,000 YouTube videos. It's crazy, but in general, the oversaturation, I agree with Gary. He says 97% will fail, 3% will crush. And I feel that way. Like, I think there's an oversaturation of a lot of things out there today. Like, I'm sure if you went on Amazon, you could look up, right? Like pillows. Like how many pillows are there? I know the addressable market's probably bigger, but I think the good stuff will win and the bad stuff will lose at the end of the day. And just because this is the first time where everything's so public, so transparent, it's going to come as a shock when we see a lot of stuff fail. But there's companies out there failing every day, products failing every
Yeah,
day.
and anytime you have a big market, you have people who try to move a little bit too quickly, and I think that's what's happening right now by default of if you heard about NFTs a month ago and you're launching your NFT today, that means the maximum amount of research you could have possibly done is like 25 days of research. And that is never enough before launching any company in any space. So the only people who I see really succeeding are those who were in it by luck or by science, um, that have been in it for 9 months because that's how long it takes to either A, build a platform, or B, really get educated on a subject. And everybody else is just
Yeah, they're rushing in. They're trying to cash out, and that's what gives me a lot of faith in Dapper as a company who's building Top Shot. Right? They started this thing on CryptoKitties. They killed the Ethereum blockchain just with gas fees, and they kind of built a blockchain, and they have all that data. And the same goes for CryptoPunks. That they're the first ones in. So yeah, a lot of the stuff I'm investing in is are companies that have been doing this for longer than 25 days, like you said.
The last point I want to touch on in regards to these NFTs, though, is the lack of nostalgia. Sports cards, a Honus Wagner has 100-year history of being worth something more than
Yeah.
because it was obviously he's a popular player. He's no Babe Ruth or anything like that, but it was removed from the production line, so there are fewer of them. People realized that from a famous set, they wanted it, and then for whatever reason, it's now the face of sports cards, although some could say it's Mike Trout or Luka Doncic, but history would say that it's Honus Wagner. You have nostalgia with that. You have nostalgia with the Jordan rookie that you grew up collecting if you're in your 40s, 50s. The LeBron if you grew up in the early 2000s, Kobe's in the 90s. Um, there is no nostalgia instead of 100-year history with some of these cards, 100-day history at best with some of these NFTs. Is that a bad thing, or is there nostalgia being built in front of our eyes for those top 3%? And do you think that ratio also applies to Top Shot and not just NFTs at large?
Such a good question. I think you're always going to have that nostalgia with the physical stuff because it is older, because, it being in mint condition that's traversed the earth for 50 to 100 years. I mean, that's insane. So you're always going to have a ton of value in that. But then I look at the Luca sale from, last night, 4.6 million, smashes the basketball record. And is the nostalgia in the fact that sports cards have existed for so long and they're tying it to that one because that card's only been around for 3 years. So it's all very interesting. With the NFTs, you're right, there's not a ton of nostalgia, but for some people, stuff that started in 2017 that's 4 years old, we know how digital and tech works, right? Like the iPhone's what, 15 years old, if that isn't it like 12 years old? And that one feels right, the first iPhone feels nostalgic because tech and digital just move so much faster. The old Instagram app, doesn't that give you nostalgia, right? The brown logo for it. So I just think we're in a world that moves 10 times faster, which is why we're seeing 10x returns. But yeah, there's so much value in the nostalgia in a lot of the early collectibles.
Speaking of NFT nostalgia, CryptoPunks have been dubbed as the rookie cards of NFTs. Uh, are you as bullish on everybody else out there on the future of CryptoPunks? And I'm all over it, by the way. I'm a fan.
So it's interesting. Obviously, first time I saw them, I said, this is the dumbest thing ever. I don't get it. Like, why are people paying for these pixelated images? The whole point of digital is, we're supposed to be looking at the most awe-inspiring stuff, not this stuff. Then I went on, multiple podcasts, Clubhouse, YouTube, wherever I could be. And essentially, I found myself saying, if I can make a bet on NFTs, I would bet every dollar I had, right? People kept asking me about Top Shot. They were like, is Top Shot gonna boom? I'm like, I like Top Shot as a platform. I like the first mover advantage. I like the license. I like a lot of what they're doing. But NFTs as a platform, as a category, I would make the biggest bet on them succeeding because I think that's just where we're headed. And then someone pointed out, they're like, well, CryptoPunks are the rookie card. They're the first NFT. So at that point, I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to put my money where my mouth is to some degree. This feels like the best bet. There's no ETF fund, right? Is there?
Well, do you think Ethereum is the ETF for NFTs?
No, because I think it's going to be the core, and I think it's huge for it. But then you look at Top Shot, and they're trading everything on flow, and there's no ETH being used, and that right, like the utility of ETH is actually getting crushed because the gas fees are so high. You can't really transact under $150 for it to make sense monetarily. So I did then look into punks. one of the things I took away from it was a lot of what I hear you preach, which is buy what you love. So there were probably maybe better values, maybe there were better lower ones I could have bought, but I found one that I felt like really represented me to a degree, and I connected with it.
I
And
love.
it's, but it's funny to say it about a 24 by 24 pixelated image, but if it tanks to zero, I think at the end of the day, I can at least say like, okay, this is why I bought this one specifically. It won't feel good if it's worth nothing, but to a degree, it'll save some of that. So, yeah, I got a punk, and I'm a
There's no
punker.
way that if it goes to zero, you're still happy with that.
No, like I said, it may make me feel 1% better, but I think it'll make me feel a little better.
Modern, just look at cards. People who collect modern cards hate on vintage
Right.
because they just crap all over it because they think that the vintage market exploding affects their market.
Right.
Totally uncorrelated to any extent that matters. The same thing with Topshot. The same thing with memorabilia. People have been on the show who collect memorabilia crap on cards because they
Right.
don't memorabilia. It's just you see it over and over and over again in business in every capacity. Um, and a lot of these people are contractually obligated to root against these things because they're involved, either they've invested in another company or in another field, and it's
Right. You think FanDuel and DraftKings, the guys who started those, didn't do well just because they both did well. You know what I mean? Like there can be more than one. I'm actually reading The Finite Game. You would love it. It talks about this. You can have rivals, but you can't have enemies because you're playing the long game. And what someone does is only going to motivate. Like if you have a rival, it actually makes you better. If you have an enemy, you root for them to fail, which is not what you should be doing. You should be focused on yourself and just doing better. So, yeah, I think like Top Shot will only increase vintage. Modern for Top Shot specifically, I could see it giving it some fits to a degree in liquidity, but like I'm sure it's just going to show people. Here's a perfect example. You can't really get a Luka, you know, uh, moment on the platform for under $1,000 right now. You can in physical. So you're going to find people who like being invested in Luka, see it as a stock market of sorts, and jump over to modern physical. So just right there, like everything can exist in harmony to a degree.
100%, 100%, and I'll definitely have to check that out if there's an audio version of that book. I'm a super dyslexic.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I listen to audiobooks. That's all I do.
Amazing.
Because we're in the digital world, Buster.
Dude, you already know. Why sit down and read something when you can open some iron? Last thing I want to touch on is this fan-controlled football league. What is it, and why are you excited about it?
Fan control football. So it's literally in the name. People don't believe it, but the fans actually call the plays. So you get on the app or there's a Twitch extension and you sign up for a team you want to support. So our team's the Wild Aces. And during the game, you actually pick, what plays. It's essentially a Madden. It's a video game. And you don't control the players, but you influence, the situation. They help us pick the players on the team. They draft every week, Wednesday night. So it's taking fan engagement to the next level. And what made me so excited is, once again, that's like how I built my community, was on fan engagement. So finally being able to give them the opportunity to support a team all together and then go out and see the results is pretty cool. Partnered up with Eckler, who we had on the pod, Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Gaming, which has been an awesome experience. We've added 2 female co-owners as well, Barb and Rachel. So it's just been amazing to be a part of the league and kind of watch that grow. It's only been 3 games. We keep losing heartbreakers. People said it would be fun. It's been a tough experience when the games actually come on. But I'm headed down there this weekend. I'm going to check out a game live. So that should be cool.
That's super fun. I love that. I remember when you texted me, you're like, I might become a part owner in a team. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if you could own, this all just goes NFTs, FCF. I think we're moving to a world where access is opening up, fractional investing, right? We can't be owners of the Knicks. It just could never happen at this
I
point in time.
I
Huh?
said we're gonna buy them together one day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But up until we amass, $8 billion, you
Yeah,
just can't do it. And just if I could put 10 grand or 1,000 or 500 bucks into the Knicks, I would do it. That's a better, I'm already so invested. And if there were palpable returns, so that's what the FCF did. They opened up fractional investing. So people for 150 bucks could be a part of teams. And then as an owner, like just to say you own a sports team, has been amazing because that's kind of what I grew up wanting to do to a degree.
I love it. I agree. Everything is inevitably turning digital, and as people, including myself, spend more and more time in VR, like I look at eBay in Oculus now. So
No, you don't.
I 100% do.
What do you mean?
I
Like you,
I put on the Oculus and then I use the browser within Oculus, Google Chrome or whatever Safari.
uh,
And I type in eBay and I look at eBay in 360 virtual reality.
that's incredible. I got to get that ASAP.
Uh,
That's nuts.
so I do pretty much everything now. Like I'll do like all different stuff. Like I'll message with people in VR and but
I feel like that's got to be tough to get out of, right? Like you're probably in a legitimately different world and like it could be a time suck to a degree, I would imagine.
but what isn't a time suck?
Right.
mean, I'm on Clubhouse like 6 hours a day as
That's
well.
true.
Um, but long story short, I think all of those sorts of things are pushing everything to digital as well. Because if I'm in my VR as much as I'm in my physical home, I want my collection to be just as good in my VR world as I want it to be in my physical world. But both are important. It's important for me to have a great virtual collection and be on top of that, whether it be being involved in the companies that are doing it or investing in it myself and doing podcasts like this and learning more about it and hearing from, experts like yourself and people who are on it very in front of the curve. But on the flip side, it's important for me to have a Lincoln and a Washington and a T-Rex because there's that in-person wow factor that is equally as important to a different and older crowd, which still holds a ridiculous proportion of the cards. Last but not least, everybody make sure to follow Jack on social media at Jack Settleman. Tell me you enjoyed the show. Follow myself at Buster and subscribe right here on YouTube for more Talking Shop. We will see you in the next episode. Peace.